Reciprocal tariffs or taxes on imports from other countries.
President Donald Trump has announced sweeping tariffs.
Instituting reciprocal tariffs.
There will be tariffs. Tariffs.
You've probably come across the word tariff in the news, maybe during a trade fight between two countries or in conversations about import taxes. It sounds like one of those economic terms that doesn't matter to most of us, but tariffs quietly affect the world around us. From the price of your phone, to the clothes you wear, to the kind of jobs available in your city. In today's video, we are going to talk about how tariffs affect your wallet, your choices, and your country. At its core, a tariff is just a tax on imported goods. Think of it as an entry fee that foreign products must pay at the border before they can be sold in your country. So, for example, if a Chinese company wants to sell smartphones in the US and the US puts a 25% tariff on them, the phone becomes 25% more expensive the moment they enter the market. Let's take a simple example. Say you love Swiss chocolates. If your government places a 20% tariff on them, a 1,000 rupee chocolate bar might now cost 1,200 rupees. That extra 200 rupees is the tariff, which is a tax that goes to the government. You might also hear terms like import duty or customs duty. They all broadly mean the same thing, a tax on stuff coming in from outside. So the question is, why do countries use tariffs in the first place? Broadly, for two reasons: to earn revenue and to protect local industries. The revenue part is straightforward. Tariffs are a source of income for the government. And the protection part is about making foreign goods more expensive so that local alternatives can compete better. Basically, if imports cost more, people are more likely to buy locally made products. But how do tariffs actually work in practice? Let's understand this with another example. Let's say the US places a 50% tariff on steel from China. If American importers were paying $1,000 per ton, they now pay $1,500. That extra $500 goes to the US government. What's important to note is that the importer and not the Chinese seller pays this tax. And in most cases, the cost is passed on to us, the consumers. Sometimes foreign companies might reduce their prices to absorb part of the tariff and stay competitive, especially if their destination country is a big market. But in most cases, especially for smaller economies, import prices go up nearly by the full tariff amount. There's also risk of retaliation. Continuing the same example, if China sees America's steel tariff as unfair, it might respond by taxing American exports like, say, soybeans or aircraft.
34% tariff on all U.S. goods.
34% tariffs on all US goods coming into China. That's now been increased to 84%.
This tit-for-tat escalation can eventually spiral into a full-blown trade war, which usually leaves both sides worse off, with higher prices and strained relationships. So, in short, tariff shifts costs. They help some groups like domestic producers or the government, while hurting others like consumers and businesses that rely on imports. Now, here's something that might surprise you. Tariffs aren't a new idea. They are one of the oldest economic tools in the book. In fact, in 1900, tariffs made up over 40% of the US government's revenue. That number dropped to just 2% by 2013 because modern tax systems moved towards income and consumption taxes. And if we talk about India, tariffs have had a very interesting journey. During British colonial rule, trade policy was shaped by British interests. But after independence in 1947, India took a different route. To become self-reliant, we built up high tariff walls and imposed tight import controls. The logic was simple: protect local industries from foreign competition so they could grow. By the 1980s, India's average tariff rates on consumer goods were around 129%. Yes, more than doubling the price of some imports. Many items were even banned outright or heavily restricted. The protectionist approach helped nurture industries like steel, heavy machinery, and automobiles. But it also had downsides. Without competition, many companies became complacent, consumers had limited choices, and quality often suffered. By the early 1990s, the cracks were showing. India was in the middle of a major economic crisis with a severe balance of payments problem. In 1991, a turning point came. Under Finance Minister Dr. Manmohan Singh, India launched big economic reforms, and reducing tariffs was a key part of that agenda. Over the next decade, import duties were slashed across the board. Some of the highest rates, which were over 150%, dropped to around 10% by the mid-2000s. India opened its doors to global trade. The shift triggered a wave of growth, more competition, better products, lower prices, and a huge boost to industries like IT and services. For the Indian consumers, it meant access to a world of choices at more affordable prices. It was India's big globalization moment. But history has a way of circling back. Since around 2017, tariffs have been rising again, driven by programs like Make in India and Atmanirbhar Bharat. The idea is to revive domestic manufacturing and to reduce dependence on imports. Take electronics. For example, import duties on smartphone components were raised to push companies like Apple and Samsung to assemble devices in India instead of shipping fully built ones. It worked to some extent, and India now assembles a large share of the phones it sells. Similar moves were made across textiles, toys, furniture, footwear, and even food items, all with the aim of boosting local production, saving jobs, and lowering trade deficits. But there's a trade-off. These tariffs also made many products more expensive. Some economists argue that this is essentially a tax on consumers, especially those who are price sensitive. So where do economists stand on all this? On tariffs, the consensus is unusually strong. Most economists are against them. Why? Because while tariffs protect one group, they tend to hurt everyone else. Let's say imported shoes now cost 2,000 rupees instead of 1,800 because of a tariff. That extra 200 rupees doesn't go into better products or services. It's just lost value. Economists call this a deadweight loss or money spent with no corresponding benefit. Worse, it often hurts other industries. For example, protecting steel might help steel makers, but on the other hand, it increases costs for car manufacturers and construction firms that use steel. It also makes exports less competitive globally. And if trade partners retaliate, local exporters get hit too. A chain reaction begins, and no one really wins. There's also a social impact. Tariffs usually hurt low-income households more because they spend a higher portion of their income on basic goods. So when prices rise, they feel the pinch first. That's why economists argue for more targeted ways to help local workers, like training programs or subsidies, rather than taxing everyone through tariffs. But it's not a black and white issue. There are genuine pro-tariff arguments too. One argument is that the new industries sometimes need temporary protection from global giants until they're strong enough to compete. Think of it like training wheels. Once a sector matures, the protection should ideally go away. India used this approach post-independence, and many other countries have used it as well. Others argue from a strategic lens. Some sectors, like semiconductors or defense, are seen as critical to national security or long-term competitiveness, and production might be necessary for them to take off. And then there's economic nationalism. This is the belief that supporting local jobs and reducing foreign dependence is worth the price. So in many ways, tariffs are a powerful tool, but they come with a trade-off. Tariffs might help certain industries, but they also make things more expensive. They can create jobs in some areas, but cause job losses in others. They might boost local production, but they can also lead to waste and less connection with the rest of the world. In the end, tariffs shape more than just trade. They shape the choices we make, the prices we pay, and the kind of economy we build.